Paul, you have a very unique background in terms you're heading towards 2 decades of doing work on high selenium yeast and yeast products. And can you tell me a little bit about your background, because it's very unique in the high selenium world?
Really, fortuitously, I had the opportunity to join a biotech group with Phillips Petroleum in 1987. And at that point, I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Lon Baugh. He was our director of fermentation in this biotechnology group. And earlier in the 80s, around 1980 to 83, Dr. Baugh developed the product that we call today high selenium yeast. The production protocol related to taking baker's yeast and growing it in a selenium-rich environment and organically binding that and replicating the process that plants go through in organically binding selenium. So he and I began working together in 1987, and that's really where I began to learn about these nutritional or specialty yeast products. As much happens, corporations go through lots of changes. There were a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and I had the opportunity through an acquisition of this biotech group to begin to work with Fleischmann's Yeast. They acquired the specialty yeast division from the biotech group at Phillips Petroleum.
They're one of the largest yeast manufacturers in the world, aren't they worldwide?
One of the largest and most well-known yeast companies, baker's yeast companies in the world. And you can go into every department store and see the little yellow pack of Fleischmann's yeast that we use in making our bread, and they supply much of the yeast products to the baking industry. Had the opportunity to begin to work with Fleischmann's Yeast, where they were continuing the manufacturing of the high selenium yeast that was developed in 1980, and ran their specialty yeast division from 95 to 96. And again, through different corporate structures, we had the opportunity to acquire that specialty yeast group, put an investor group together, and we began Cypress in June of 1996. Although we had been involved with the technology, Dr. Baugh had been the originator and developer of the technology. I'd been involved with him since 1987. Had an opportunity to put a privately held investor group together and acquire that specialty yeast group from Fleischmann's, and began Cypress in June of 1996. And again, very fortuitously, the Nutritional Prevention of Cancer trial was published in JAMA in December, Christmas Eve of 1996. So we began Cypress in June of 96 officially, and by Christmas Eve of 1996, what had been a relatively small piece of business for us at Fleischmann's all of a sudden became a very well-known piece of business, and a very large supply of a branded ingredient that's used in the dietary supplement industry. We standardized the product with the National Cancer Institute, signed a clinical trial agreement in 1998. We're now in a complete series of cancer prevention and health-related trials, and really continue the work that was begun clear back in the 1980s. And we're continuing that effort even today, and have gained a FDA GRAS application, generally regarded as safe. So we've opened new doors to now enter into the functional food market with an organically bound form of selenium.